Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be about resumes and the resume that got me into Amazon. So it is fall time, which means it's time to apply for the summer software engineering internships. Having a good resume will help you stand out amongst the pool of applicants, so it's important to have a solid resume. So I did some digging and I found my old resume, which I used to apply to internships last year. A little disclaimer, my resume was not perfect and there were many things I could have done differently. But it seemed to work for me because it helped me get my dream internship at Amazon. To see what helped me get this position and what I could have done differently, let's go back and look at my resume. So here is the resume I used to apply to Amazon. As you can see, the first thing you want to note is my resume is only 1 page long. Especially as a student, your resume should not be longer than 1 page. This is because the only people who should have resumes longer than 1 page are people who have countless years of experience in the industry and have many things that they can list on their resume. So unless you are an extremely qualified individual, your resume should only be 1 page long. Another important thing to remember is you do not want to put high school information on your resume. I know this can be hard, especially if you're a first-year computer science student, because you don't actually have many experiences you want to list on your resume. If you're a first-year student, I would say it's okay if you have a little bit of high school stuff on your resume because you're fresh in college and you don't actually have much to put on your resume. But after that first year of computer science, I would eliminate all high school information and replace it with your new experiences and put your college information. If you were enrolled in a university or a college of some sort, it is automatically implied to recruiters that you have a high school diploma of some sort. This is why you don't actually need high school information on your resume, and recruiters are more looking at what you are doing now and what you are learning now. So one thing to remember is recruiters are reading your resume from top to bottom. So you should always remember to have your most important information at the top of your resume so that it stands out to recruiters. So at the very top of my resume, I have my name and contact information. This helps the recruiters know who you are and how to reach out if they have any opportunities or positions for you. So as you can see, I made my name the center of attention so recruiters know who I am. And for contact information, I listed my LinkedIn, my email, my phone number, and my home address. If I could go back, I would cross out my home address because it's no longer needed on resumes. So after my contact information comes my objective. So an objective is a few short sentences which help recruiters figure out the goal of your resume and what type of positions you are seeking. It can be useful to have an objective, especially if you are a first-year computer science student, because oftentimes you might not already have experiences on your resume which make it clear to show what type of positions you are seeking. I know as a first-year computer science student, I had mostly medical experiences on my resume because in high school, I really wanted to become a doctor. For this reason, my resume didn't accurately match up with my goals. So I have experience such as shadowing, working at the National Institutes of Health. So these are all medically oriented positions. So for a recruiter who's looking at my resume, it can be a little confusing and they might be like, what is this person applying to? Thus, having a short objective section was a great way of communicating to recruiters that I wanted a position in the computer science field. I would say if your resume already has plenty of computer science experiences, this section is not required because your resume can already speak for itself. So one thing I did that I would do differently is move my education section, which I put at the bottom all the way to right underneath my name, contact information, and objective. Education is an important section, so I would put it at the top because it shows recruiters what qualifications you have for the job. So let's examine my education section. So I have my education section ordered in chronological order with my most recent education at the top. I also have my high school information here in my education section, and this is something I would cross off because it is already implied that if you are enrolled in a university that you have a high school diploma of some sort. So recruiters aren't really looking for that. So for my college education, I have the name of my university, which is the University of Maryland at College Park. And I also have my major and my minor listed. I am a computer science major with a business analytics minor. Underneath this, I also have my GPA, and it is a great way of showing recruiters how I am doing academically. Along with this information, I made sure to include any other notable achievements I have, such as scholarship or awards I've received throughout my college experience. So the next section I have on my resume are my skills. Your skills section can show recruiters if you have the skills required for the position. My skills section includes a list of programming languages I know, any frameworks, softwares, or technologies that I also know how to use. Looking at this list right here, you can already tell it has no order to it. If I could go back, I would change it and split it up into 2 different categories so that it's easier for recruiters to read. I would make the first category any programming languages I know, and the second category any frameworks, technologies, or softwares that I know how to use. Doing so would make this much easier for employers to read. So after the skills section comes what I think is the most important section on your resume, the experiences. You always want to put your experiences in chronological order as well, with your most recent experience at the top. So it is common for college students to not have much experience or have experience in completely different fields. This is completely normal, and it is okay to still put these experiences on your resume. For example, I mentioned that my resume was geared towards the medical field. So one experience that I had that is medically oriented that's on my resume was my internship at the National Institutes of Health. So I interned twice at the National Institutes of Health. So the first time I interned at the National Institutes of Health, it was completely regarding the medical field, and I interned as a student researcher. The second time I interned at the National Institutes of Health, it was a computer science internship because I was a bioinformatics intern. Although this was not a computer science internship, when I mentioned my experience at the National Institutes of Health as a student researcher, I made sure to highlight any leadership experience I had or any contributions I made to the team. As a student researcher, I still was using Python and some Linux systems, so I made sure to highlight any coding experience I had on this internship on my resume. So the second experience that I have on my resume is a program through my school. So this wasn't exactly an official internship either. It was more so a summer fellowship mixed in with a school program. However, in this program, I learned a lot about machine learning, and I worked independently and collaboratively on many projects. So I learned a lot, and I wanted to showcase this on my resume. For this experience, I made sure to highlight, once again, my leadership experience, any notable contributions I made, and any achievements I had through this program. I also discussed what projects I was working on and what languages I was using while I was in this program. So the first experience on my resume is also at the National Institutes of Health, but this time I was working as a bioinformatics intern, and this was my first real computer science internship. For this experience, I made sure to list what programming languages I used, and I described the project I was working on. Here I mentioned my goals and what I achieved through this internship, and I used keywords to highlight what I did. When discussing your experiences, you basically want to be able to use keywords to highlight any contributions you made, any leadership experience you have, or any projects or goals that you met. Basically, you want to show recruiters that you did something and you learned something. So the next section I have on my resume are projects. Projects are a great way of showing recruiters that you actually know how to code. So for projects, you can include any projects you completed within coursework, or you could also include any personal projects you've completed on your own. I would highly recommend to do as many personal projects as you can and put them on your resume. So in my opinion, having personal projects on your resume is very impressive. So I would go and find data sets on Kaggle or look at open source repositories of other projects that people have completed and recreate those projects with a little twist of your own. This helps demonstrate that you know how to code and that you are able to grasp concepts and put them into play. In your project section, you also want to include examples or artifacts that show your work. Projects are great conversation starters during interviews, and I often get asked questions on my projects. I'm also able to demo my projects when recruiters ask because I have links to GitHub repositories or any presentations I've done on them in the past. The very last section on my resume I have are languages. So I would cross this section off because it's not really applicable to a computer science internship. So if I could go back, I would also add some personal touches to my resume, such as any hobbies I do in my free time, because this can be a great conversation starter between you and your recruiter. So how effective exactly was my resume when I was applying to internships? So clearly my resume was effective because I was able to get my dream internship, and also for every interview that I was called in for, I got the position. So hopefully you guys take my tips, use them, and make your resumes better. So that is all I have for today's video. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know in the comments below if you have any questions. Thank you. Bye.